I'm going to say something to you that you're terrified to hear because it gives you guilty pleasure, especially when it's said by your girlfriend's boyfriend. Man up. Take the heat. And I don't mean take it like you did that silicone. Never mind. You deserve to be pilloried and exposed as the clown that you are. Alright, so if you clicked on this video, I'm pretty sure you've probably already seen all these clips of John Goldman, also known as Jack Murphy, also known as Big Bad Beard 1000. If you don't know what I'm talking about, I don't advise you to Google it. This guy is a self-proclaimed GIGACHAD apex male guru who's been taking heat for doing really unmanly things. So Big Beard McAlpha Male apparently forgot that the internet remembers everything. And so when someone unearthed not only an article where he gleefully elaborated on his love of being cuckolded by his young girlfriend by Matt from Tinder, but also his past homemade porn videos in which he stimulates himself with implements made of silicone, let's say, he very clearly panicked about this. So let's take a step back. Who the hell is Jack Murphy? Well, when I first saw him on Timcast IRL, it's a large podcast that I sometimes watch, Tim Pool, the host of Timcast, I guess he's friends with Jack Murphy, they're associates of some kind, and Jack Murphy appears on the show regularly. I was pretty much immediately really mistrustful of Jack Murphy because from the very first time I saw him speak, because he kind of described as what he did as he runs this specific men-only club that he calls the Liminal Order, and he charges men $100 a month for coaching on how to be a better man. I don't care about that at all. The guy's got a hustle. He's making a fine living for himself, I'm sure. Whatever, no problem. I was mistrustful because I never trust people who purport to be alpha males. They're usually way overcompensating for something. So, like, think of guys who drive those great big trucks with the really loud engines. Or actually, a great example is the guys at the gym who they yell and they slam their weights and they walk around just, they're clearly on steroids and they're just angry and salty all the time. There's a very specific, and not every ripped guy is like this. There's a very, very specific type. And they think that all this makes them look tough. They're very insecure. They're often really stupid. And that's the immediate vibe that I get from people who claim to be alphas. I don't think Jack Murphy is an exception to this, but we'll get to that later. These types of people, they really often don't have a sense of humor about anything, and they take themselves way too seriously. So it's better to avoid them, I think. Anyway, self-proclaimed GIGACHAD, and I think GIGACHAD is actually a term he uses, which is cringe, alpha male, big beard guy who for some reason, God knows why, people seem to think is ripped. And seriously, this gets to me. So, like, everybody's, I've seen it, and I can't tell you where or exactly when I've seen and heard this, but people think Jack Murphy is in, like, really good physical shape, and he is not. So, like, he's got a passable dad bod. So, like, far be it from me. I'm not trying to body shame the guy. Like, far be it from me to body shame anyone. But if you want people to think that you're an apex male, super Chad type of guy from like that, especially like the traditional conservative bent from which this guy tends to speak, you better be able to see at least two of your abs. Like, come on, man. Like, at least two. The top two, please. Or have a visible biceps vein. Like, be that guy. If you're going to have a dad bod, have the big arms. Like, something. Jesus. So, anyway, that was a total tangent. A quick recap of what happened now. So, Jack Murphy was on You Are Here, which is a show that I'd never seen before. It's a show that's hosted by Sydney Watson and Elijah Schaefer. I had seen Elijah Schaefer somewhere, and I can't remember where. Not important. I've never seen this show. It's on Blaze TV, and I'm not a fan of Glenn Beck. Never have been. I think he's been a really big huckster in the past. I haven't paid much attention to him lately, but that's another topic. Anyways, I've never watched it. So Sydney Watson was reading Super Chats, and one donor asked Jack to explain his cuckold article. He redirected it, and then another chatter, who's named Mr. Dickenballs, asked the same question. So Jack then flipped out, and he started swearing at Sydney Watson, despite the fact that apparently he never told Sydney Watson that this topic is off limits. He says he did. I don't see it in the stream, but far be it from me to disagree with Chad Thundercock, Mr. GIGACHAD Alpha Male Big Bad Beard 1000.
Mr. Dickenballs says, "Hey Jack."
See, that's what she does. She does this. Like, she reads it like that's normal. Like, it's not even, she's not even saying, I'm not going to skip the name. She just goes, Mr. Dickenball said.
Could you please clear up the cuck article you wrote?
I am not going to talk about this. Okay. And basically, you know what? Fuck you for bringing this up right here and right now. Why are you doing this to me?
I didn't know that. I didn't know what it was.
Well, just use a little bit of fucking common sense.
Sorry, apologies.
Yeah. Fuck you.
Elizabeth.
Heartfelt.
So after this exchange, Jack Murphy just got ruthlessly and hilariously mocked all over the internet by viewers who immediately recognized the incongruence of his manly man talk with his past actions. But a few days later, he went on to Timcast IRL and he said this.
So here's what happened with Sydney. So I'm sitting on the show and we're talking and they're joking about reading super chats where people are building like gas chambers and she's reading out loud like, how did I build this gas chamber that didn't kill all the Jews that I was supposed to kill, right? It's like insane, the super chats that she reads. And so I'm telling her this whole time, I'm like, hey, you might want to read all the super chats before you read them out loud, right? A little bit of a warning. And then she asked me the question about the article and I answered it politely. I deflected. I was like, that's not me. It's 180 degrees from whatever that article says. And I'd really rather not talk about it anymore. And then a couple minutes later, she literally asked me the same question all over again. And I cursed at her. I shouldn't have cursed at her. And I apologized, Sydney. I apologized to her that day and that night and the next day. And she accepted my apology. So I don't know why everybody's still butthurt. But I shouldn't have cursed at her. I should have just used amused mastery and just like laughed at her and dismissed her. But I didn't because I had set a boundary and she crossed it.
So this, among the other things that Jack was doing on Twitter, really pissed off Sydney Watson and Elijah Schaefer, at least from what I could tell. I saw some tweets from Elijah Schaefer where he was very salty about this. He said Sydney did nothing wrong, etc., etc. Because it came off as just a super underhanded way of cheapening his apology, and it seemed to imply that Sydney Watson was at fault. This got a lot of people angry, and they dug up this clip of Jack Murphy, and they really started demanding accountability. Let's watch it.
Way more quickly.
It's preference.
At age 15, women, they're basically women already, right? And it's like men hit their prime in their 30s.
35.
Why wouldn't a man in his prime latch on to a woman in her prime? Why not? That seems the most logical thing possible.
That's what's happened for millennia.
Millennia.
Older men would marry like 15-year-olds.
And the societal,
it's
shame
creepy in this society.
Around dating a younger woman is just jealousy. It's jealousy. Because, as you said, every man in the world wants to date a 22-year-old woman.
According to OkCupid data.
According to OkCupid,
I don't know.
Your own two eyes, all of history, every piece of literature,
I'm citing
every
this
book you ever saw.
Because it's not your opinion. OkCupid actually tracked all the messages. Yeah. And they found no matter how old a guy was, from even younger guys.
Why do you think that is?
Always mentioning 22-year-olds.
Why do you think that is?
For, I think, evolution, like biological reasons.
Right, exactly right.
And what OkCupid found was that, very disgustingly, in my opinion, men are actually attracted to women much, much, much younger than that, but would not want to have a family with someone younger than that. So men choose 22 as the equilibrium between mental and physical maturity.
Why is that disgusting? There's nothing wrong. Well, little kids, of course, dude.
Well, that's hyperbolic on my part.
Right,
like,
but there's literally nothing wrong with seeing a woman of fertile age and thinking she is an attractive sexual partner.
Okay, also, people pulled up this old article. They found this old article that Jack Murphy wrote in 2015 where he brags about having his manhood intact while being cuckolded by his girlfriend by a random fellow off of Tinder named Matt. Furthermore, and I can't believe I'm saying this, people found old cam videos that he made where he's seen pleasuring himself with the dildo, among other things. So after all of that happened, this large channel called The Quartering found all this stuff really fun. The guy Jeremy found it all really funny, and honestly, like, you can tell, I think it's funny. Like, I mean for this to be a serious video, but this is really funny to me. So The Quartering started mocking Mr. Big Bad Beard 1000, and it's right here, I think, where Jack totally started to go off the rails. So he went on a DMCA and blocking spree, apparently. He even blocked Razor Fist. If you don't know who Razor Fist is, he's a YouTuber who's been around forever. I first saw him on the Drunken Peasants podcast when they were all still together. Like, this could have been like 7 years ago when I was into that type of thing. But Razor Fist, the reason this is significant is that Razor Fist had no idea who this guy was or like anything. And because he was blocked, you can kind of tell that what Jack did is he used like a block system instead of just like manually blocking. He was using block lists. So he was like, if this person follows this person, I'm going to block them. Like that's what he was doing. So it kind of shows that he's been basing his blocks on, you know, follows, just indiscriminate. Essentially, like, if he feels like this person might criticize him, they're blocked. So he went, and I guess, and you can watch the Quarterings videos on this. I recommend them. They're pretty funny. They're the reason that I started following this. And like I said, I mean for this to be a serious video. It's just a really funny situation. I just said serious, and my phone turned on. Anyways, so he apparently messaged Jeremy from The Quartering very cordially and asked him if he could stop it, and so, okay, whatever. But then he went on to privately talk about wanting to start a lawsuit. He went on Twitter and called The Quartering a sexual predator and implied that he was some sort of associate of Elijah Schaefer and Sydney Watson, which I think he knows Sydney Watson, but I don't think they're like friends or anything. I don't know. I don't really care. But the point is that Jack Murphy tagged Glenn Beck in the tweet. Basically what he was doing was trying to get them in trouble with their boss, with their company. He claimed that the trolling about his publicly available cam videos that he made and was like getting tipped and paid for were the equivalent of revenge porn, which revenge porn is a felony. Okay, you can't do that. That's illegal. But it's just so not true. He posted these things. They're on like a porn site. You can find them. I don't recommend looking for them. They're disturbing. And but it's just not true. And he's doing exactly what, you know, he's a right-wing guy. He's sitting here talking about like, oh, you know, the left cancel culture, all this stuff. And he's over here like trying to get them in trouble with their boss because they're criticizing him. Because he messed up. Like, they didn't do anything to him. He just was lying about who he was, or allegedly lying about who he was. I don't know. Anyways, so despite all this ridiculousness, there's people like Tim Pool, for example, who have given Jack Murphy a lot of grace on this, and they're refusing to involve themselves or comment. Now, let me just say, this is admirable in some ways, but it's also really irritating in others. So Tim Pool especially, because Jack Murphy's a regular guest on Timcast. I think it's like every other Wednesday he's on there. Now, I don't particularly care for Tim Pool all that much. I watch some of his stuff, quite a bit of his stuff, because he gives you the news headlines. But essentially, he gives you the headline, and then he goes and puts his spin on it. He gives the headline, and then I'm just like, okay, well, I'm going to exit the video and go look up the news because I want to know what's going on. But I don't agree with a lot of what Tim Pool is all about. Anyways, so I think that Tim Pool giving him the opportunity to sit there and say his piece and then trying to move on from it, it's admirable to me because like Tim doesn't want to engage in drama. That's cool. But at the same time, it's really irritating because Jack is getting this platform and he's avoiding accountability while he's on it. So like, at least make him answer the question. You know what I mean? Like, instead of just, mentioning it and then being like, we don't care, we're not going to engage this. But then again, it is Tim's podcast, so he can say whatever the hell he wants, but I know that it irritates a lot of people. So Jack Murphy is continuing to stir this drama pot when he should let the dust settle. And if you watch the videos from the quartering on this, that's what he says too. It's like, just let it settle, let it be over, just stop talking. He's not doing it. But this is important because when he was on Timcast, he was like, I just want it to be over. Like, I don't care about this. I don't care what people think. By the way, the reason I'm so caught up on this is because I just did 2 30-hour drives in the past 2 weeks. And so I just listened to everything I could get my hands on about this because I thought it was funny. Anyways, so he was given the opportunity to respond on Timcast, and he just lied. He just sat there and lied. He said, I want this all to be over. I don't really care. These people are just annoying. And then he's been blocking and, talking all this crap and, very disingenuous. So what really, this is kind of the meat and the potatoes of this. So now that we've revisited what actually happened, what are the implications of something like this? Well, let's see. I believe in forgive and forget. So if Jack Murphy has really changed as a person, we should probably forgive him and forget this, even though it is really funny. But in this case, there's 2 options in my mind. So either Jack has truly changed, and if we believe him, he has evolved as a person. He is now truly an alpha male, bent on making life better for other men. Option 2. Jack is a grifter who is playing a role in order to make tens of thousands of dollars from unsuspecting conservative men. Let's examine both. So option 1. All right, so if Jack truly has changed, we should forgive him. But first, we would need a lot of apologies and explanations. He would need to explain the extremely cowardly way that he responded, swearing at Sydney Watson, his absurd behavior with all the blocking and threats and messages to the quartering, exposing him of accusing him of lying and calling this expose revenge porn and he literally, if you go watch the quartering's video of this, it's really funny. Jack Murphy's trying to assemble a war room for research, which to me means he's trying to dig up dirt on the people who are criticizing him. And he blamed this whole fiasco on Elijah Schaffer and Sydney Watson. In my opinion, option 2 is much more likely. I think Jack Murphy is a grifter, and I think he's terrified of losing the money and influence that he has garnered through the liminal order. He built up this reputation as some alpha male guy and it's just been shattered. He's kind of been exposed as, and this is going to sound really harsh, but he's been exposed as a scared little man who's been found out. Do you know why people like Jordan Peterson have remained, like Jordan Peterson specifically? Let's use him as an example because he kind of fits into this, building masculinity topic the same way that Jack Murphy is trying to. So do you know why Jordan Peterson is almost sacred to his followers? It's because nothing like this has ever happened, and it's kind of unthinkable that it would. This is it, Jack. This should be it, at least. You pretended to be something that you're not. That's a big deal. In my opinion, I believe that you saw an opportunity to grift, and you were exposed by your own failure to stick to your own purported principles. You went on Timcast and said you don't care about this. You lied. You lied there. You lied on Twitter. You altered facts and blamed people for your own shortcomings. You DMCA'd and blocked every person who dared to criticize you. I'd be willing to forgive you if and only if, and I say forgive loosely, like I don't care what this guy does, honestly, but I would not think of him as poorly if and only if he could admit, Jack, if you could admit that you're a liar and apologize to everyone involved. How many small channels did you DMCA? Jack, channels like The Quartering, they can handle your nonsense, but even he got banned on Twitter. So what did you do to the little channels that were talking about this before The Quartering got a video out? Why do you have the right to get people banned because they expose you, Jack? You're not acting like an alpha or in a manly way. You're acting like a scared little baby. And for all of your talk about free speech and, you know, how the left cancels everything and they lash out and all this, you're doing the same thing. I'm going to say something to you that you're terrified to hear because it gives you guilty pleasure, especially when it's said by your girlfriend's boyfriend. Man up. Take the heat. And I don't mean take it like you did that silicone. Never mind. You deserve to be pilloried and exposed as the clown that you are. And I really don't care if people pay you money or they join your stupid sausage fest club or whatever. They're entitled to waste their money. And who knows? Maybe the liminal order is helping some people, because I guess there's like forums on there, and if some people are meeting other people that are helping them out, that's a big deal. Like, that should be encouraged. I'm happy about that. But, you know, good for them. But you, Jack, you are a fraud and you've been exposed. And I don't mean exposed as in what you did on the camera for tips. I mean your true character has been shown. What lessons can be learned from this? Well, first and foremost, in my mind, if you make porn or send nudes of any kind, please be aware that those chickens can and will come home to roost one day. You better either be okay with that or just don't do it in the first place, because seriously, guys, everything on the internet, it's there forever. It can be found. But the real lesson here, I think, is, and this is the one that really made me want to make this video, and this is serious to me. You should always beware of men that call themselves alphas. Think for a minute about the men that we respect the most. For example, like on a sports team. So the first example that came to mind, Giannis Antetokounmpo. We like Giannis because not only is he this exceptional basketball player, the dude is humble. He elevates others. I mean, I get it. Bravado has its place in male interactions. But the men that we respect the most, and I say we as in men, being a man, and I think I can say that now. I'm almost 30. But we respect them because they lead by doing. And by the way, if you only had these traditionally male attributes like the strength and the stoicism and all of that stuff, you'd probably be a miserable person. Okay, you can't just strictly be this block of impenetrable masculinity your whole life, because that's a facade. People do have feelings. People need the more softer traits as well. Think about Jordan Peterson. I know I mentioned him a few times, but it's relevant here because the same people that seek guidance from someone like Jack Murphy are also likely they would probably embrace Jordan Peterson. So that's why I keep referring to him. Jordan Peterson talks freely about how he has like I guess what you would call traditionally feminine traits. So I mean, I saw an interview with him where he kind of he was asked specifically about this, and he kind of readily talked about the value of these like non-Chad traits. So I mean, I think the thing they were talking about was he cries a lot, and he's more agreeable than most men. And if you look up to Jordan Peterson, you can recognize these traits can be masculine as well. You just have to, don't over feminize yourself. Whatever. You get the point that I'm saying. You don't just need to be like a 6'6" giant jacked person in order to, make anyone like you or to be a real man. Like, you have to understand that that's not the case. So someone like Peterson would use responsibility and self-discovery as a tool to help men grow, instead of being like, okay, here's how you make women like you, or here's how you become the GIGACHAD, like, you do these things, like, blah, blah, blah. So also, yeah, I mean, I guess I'll leave that there. So, Brittany Venti, I had never heard of Brittany Venti before this. I watched the Quarterings videos because I thought they were funny, and Brittany came up on my suggesteds, and so I watched a bit of her streams that were about this. And again, I want to stress this. This is serious to me because I think people like Jack Murphy do a whole lot of harm to men, because men who are feeling lost, they look up to these people, and then when something like this happens, it kind of just destroys the whole idea that had been built up in the minds of these people. And well, who do I trust then? Is there any hope for me? Because this guy said this is the way to go, but he's not doing it himself, and that's really that's really destructive. I mean, that's especially if it's a younger guy who doesn't have a lot of life experience and isn't cynical enough. Like myself, for example, like if I were somebody who sat and looked up to, Chad Thunder, GigaChad here, Big Bad Beard 1000, I would be very shaken by this. So what Brittany Venti said that really got to me, she mentioned how cuckoldry would make a woman feel unwanted. And so, think about the idea, like especially the idea in like the conservative sphere or the what they call it, the manosphere of this apex male. So and I really anyways, you would think that their goal would be to make their wife or girlfriend or woman feel wanted. Right? So let me pose this question to you, Jack. Is there any better way than cuckoldry to make your woman feel as if she isn't wanted or valued? That's really demeaning, not just to yourself, but to her. Far be it from me to kink shame. So, like, do what you want, as long as you're consenting adults. But through the lens of traditional masculinity, this lens that Jack so desperately wants to embody, is this not the case? I'm just asking. Okay, and finally this. So I want to address this 15-year-old thing, Jack. I know that you have a lot of weird kinks, but 15-year-old girls... Whoa, my voice just broke really bad. Maybe I should go to Jack for counseling on how to be a male. Anyways, 15-year-old girls are off the menu, Jack. Seriously, how could anyone say that just because a girl reached 15 and she's like therefore developed her secondary sex characteristics and she's had her first period, how can you say that that's mature? How can you say that she's a grown woman at this point? Yes, women mature faster than men, but it's still not until their early to mid 20s where their prefrontal cortex is fully developed. So what does that mean? Do you know what that means, Jack? I think you do, and I think that that's what makes you such a creep. When your prefrontal cortex isn't fully developed, your problem solving and executive function and reasoning are just not fully developed. So you're not on the same, a 15-year-old girl is not on the same level as a 35-year-old man. And that was the argument that he was making. That means what would happen in that sort of a relationship? Think about it. That 15-year-old girl would get completely manipulated and used by that 35-year-old man. All right? So that seems to me to be the only reason anyone would want such a relationship in the first place. That is, if there's some sort of sicko who wants to manipulate their partner. Jack, I know that you think you made some sort of profound point when you're talking about how women mature faster than men, but holy God, that's disgusting. I have younger sisters, and if any weird creature like you ever comes sniffing around them, I've got several brothers, and we have no mercy for creeps. Disgusting. You have a daughter, for God's sake. How the hell could you say something like this? I do not understand that. I'm not going to tell, and this is everybody who sees this, I don't know if anybody will watch this. I would never tell you who to follow or anything like that. But what I will say is that I'll never be part of any weird club, and this is exactly why. I'll never follow a masculinity guru. This stuff is weird to me. But if it's your thing, you go and enjoy yourself. That's none of my business. Anyway, credit to Timcast IRL, The Quartering, Sydney Watson, Elijah Schaefer, You Are Here, and Brittany Venti for the clips and the insight. Some of the insight on here, most of it's my own, but I did get some ideas from them. I know this is fair use, but I feel like I should mention it. Let me know what you think about this. Don't Google Big Bad Beard 1000, and I'll see you later.